Every one of those Leuchtturm notebooks comes with one of these pages of labels, and you can use them on all kinds of things. I actually used it in this case on a small jot book, a kind of notebook I enjoy. Some big news that happened yesterday is that right after having made this video where I talked about pocket notebooks I was keeping, I discovered a whole batch of other ones that I'd forgotten I had. See, I thought this was my body of work. These 1, 2, 3,
5, 6, 7, 8, 9,
12. I thought these 12 notebooks were kind of all the pocket notebooks I had to discuss. There were the perfect bounds, the saddle stitched, the saddle stapled, the handmade, and the right in the rain. But yesterday I found this box. There's this box up in the closet, and I thought, what could be in there? And it turned out that there were a bunch of other pocket notebooks from an earlier era, confirming my suspicion that I'm not just keeping a pocket notebook, I'm returning to the practice after having done so in college seemingly pretty extensively. This is like a spiral book of index cards that are detachable. This is really cool. There's a lot of blank pages in it. There are two books from a company called Shinola, Detroit. I don't remember where I got these, but one of these is signed by Zadie Smith. I'll tell that story. You have a totally typical saddle-stitched moleskin, of the kind I'm used to. You have these two kind of composition books that are, this one's in really nice shape, and this one got left out in the rain, or it fell in a puddle or something. This Grooves and Moves. Now, my suspicion is that these are both from a Hyde Park convenience store, or like a little convenience store. Some of those convenience store notebooks, you'll notice they have a weird smell. But these don't have that smell. They don't have that kind of like weird, like glued together with weird stuff smell. There's an unemployed Philosophers Guild music notebook. I have a larger version of this that I use to make notes for music. So up here where microphones get used, I have one of these unemployed Philosophers Guild things that like all the pages are falling out. This one has taken me a long time to fill up. I've been very kind of scattered with moving and things, and I haven't really had like kind of a unified routine with making music, and so this is a very, very, very messy thing, but these are kind of fun to do music notes in because they do have staff paper. You can write down notes if you want. This has a little window of more songs I wanted to work on. I just ended up making lists of songs I wanted to work on, but not ever working on them. But the first one I kept is so nice and neat. When I got these, it was in a big batch. I got little ones that are like, tiny moleskin size. Here's a ballpoint pen for scale. And then there were a couple larger ones. I just showed you an example of one of those. I like this little sticker of a cup of coffee that says "Good Day." A dear roommate I had gave me a sheet of small little cute stickers, and this is one that I used, I think, to good effect. I won't linger on this one too long right now, but it seems like I was playing with fire one night. And then to round out the collection, you have two pocket notebooks that I purchased in Beijing, China. When I went to Beijing in college in 2015, I got these at a little stationery shop, and so we can talk about these too. One of them has lots of faces that are hand-drawn, and that is all over the notebook, as you can see. It's an art time notebook. It's saddle stitched with this white thread that you can see is kind of fraying, and it says hippie there. I was putting down things that I saw, I guess. Maybe I was inspired by like Spencer Tweedy's like receipt lists of things that he would see or something. But I left plenty of space. I guess I felt like I was there in Beijing, and stationery was just so darn cheap and so darn good. I have other bigger notebooks, probably a half dozen of them, that I purchased while there that really kind of actually got me started on this whole journey of trying to find a nice notebook to use. Trying to find a nice notebook to use for each purpose. So in Hatchet, do you remember when in Hatchet, he's trying to make a home for the Sparks? I must make a home for the Sparks, he thought. A perfect home or they won't stay. They won't make fire. So I think that people who are crazy about notebooks think about their notebooks the same way. This red one is very intact, but it looks like this yellow one is kind of destroyed somehow. It looks like some of the sheets, maybe I was like tearing out some sheets, and when I tore out sheets, it dislodged others. You know how that is when you tear out a sheet from something that's saddle stitched and it kind of frees up the one that you didn't want to leave the book to sort of sit in there loosely. For opera today, cai lao shi in long pants for politeness. You can see that these notebooks were about 2.5 yuan. That's all the yuan I had to spend to get these, you know, and I was getting much nicer things for only a couple of more yuan, which, like, for those who haven't thought about it much, is not really as much as $1. I mean, renminbi is like not as much as $1. Before I forget about it, I want to tell you the story that I teased earlier about how this got signed by Zadie Smith on the front. Zadie Smith was coming to the University of Chicago. Preparatory to that, I bought NW. I didn't really finish reading NW, but I wanted to bring it to the reading. However, when leaving my dorm that day, I just forgot it, and by the time I had to run to the reading or the discussion or whatever it was, I think it was a discussion like up in like the 8th floor of Logan, and like I had to run up there, and I didn't have the book, so I just had this. This was my pocket notebook, and I said, sign this, and I had her sign the front of it. And I don't remember her, like, you know, finding that too remarkable or anything. Like, yeah. In the talk, she talked about Nabokov's rigid schedule. Wow, Dennis Cooper and Muriel Spark. I wonder if I knew about them before. Of course, I've read Muriel Spark now, and I love her. There are notes in here from listening to someone's episode of Bookworm. There are a bunch of blank pages in here, so I better put my money where my mouth is and sort of fill these up, use this again. Of course, I wouldn't really necessarily want to have this precious signature be abraded by the process of constantly taking the notebook in and out of my pocket. I'm looking through these for my Nicholson Baker signature. I remember one day Nicholson Baker came to promote the book Substitute, and I remember handing him my notebook to tell him to draw something in there, or to write his name in there. And I remember him saying something about how he loved when it was clear that someone's pocket notebook had actually lived in their pocket for a while. And much like my situation right now with people commenting in such a friendly way on that last video I made, I wasn't hunting for that compliment, but I took it, and I enjoyed it. There's even like little scraps of papers. There's something written on the back of a receipt in here. There's a nice ring. I wonder if I consciously made a nice drink ring on the back of this thing. Shinola, whatever became of them. So it looks like Shinola is still a thing. They do things where you put stuff in a leather thing. I've never been too into that. I would say that they bind their things too tightly, but that obviously didn't stop me from enjoying the notebook and filling it up and using it and liking it. I also like this blue-green. This is really nice. More of this. I think actually Moleskine has one of their colors that's available now. They have like a green. Anyway, I don't think I want to waste that much more time looking through for Nicholson Baker's signature. This is cool to write all over the cover of one of these craft paper things. Of course, this is something that makes a lot of sense to do because, it's just nice. You get more pages for your money. I wonder if I did anything in the inside front. Yes, I did. I recently got back to this idea with one of my dream diaries. I tend to write my dream diaries in Moleskine, things like this. I can talk more about that later. I'll talk about all this stuff repeatedly and more later and whatever. But I recently rediscovered that these are pages and that you don't have to leave them blank or whatever. It's actually kind of nice to write on them. But I want to talk about this next thing, which is the pens. Somebody asked on the previous video what pens I was using for pocket notebooks. So the most common one is this Bic Round Stick. Second most common is this one that behaves similarly, Papermate Ripe Rose 1.0. The reason I like these is because they are very inexpensive. You can buy a package for like $1 or $2, This is kind of my preferred gel pen. Now, I think all of this old stuff, so these are kind of more newy things, and they're very ballpointy, but all these old things, I think I was maybe in like a Pilot G2, like a fine Pilot G2 phase. This is a 0.5. Crazy. I thought this was 0.38. Well, something like a 0.38 one of these, I guess 0.38 to 0.5 one of these Muji gel pens was kind of what I preferred to use during this era, I would think. You see lots of fine black lines that are a little scratchy. They aren't as glucky and inky as what you get with a felt tip. Of course, in this era, I also had a period with felt tip pens, but I got sick of the way they bled. I guess I would do, experiment with gel more by having a gel pen in my pocket, but G2s and these are just too expensive and nice and kind of rare. I don't like how when I'm pulling my notebook out of my pocket here, whoa, fetch it out. When I'm pulling it out of my pocket and I'm pulling, my phone out of my pocket on the other side, sometimes these come out like this will latch against it and fly out, and then you lose your pen. I think I lost one of these that way, and I was like, crap, I ordered those from Japan or something. Of course, I don't think they come from Japan. They come from warehouses in the US, but that's the basic pen spiel I have. At home, I don't know, the whole notebooks I use at home, that's like a whole... Before I go, I would like to just call to your attention these notebooks that I got because I was getting more of these Muji pens. I threw some of these, the Pocket Note, in the A5 size, I think, or B6, I forget, but the big size, the medium size. And they're so thick and heavy, I have no idea what to say. The binding feels like a little tighter, like you'd need to like really crease it to get it to lay flat, and I think that could be cool. It seems like a sketchbook, like one of those kinds of sketchbooks where you're supposed to hold it open and draw on it this way. It seems like a great place to do that. The plainest, most just the sufficient thing, just sufficient for my purpose thing imaginable. So anyway, there's that. I mean, I was just shocked when I picked them up. I was like, oh, they're so heavy, they're so heavy. They were rather inexpensive. I thought they were gonna be slim, like a little, moleskin notebook, but there's a lot of paper there. So a lot of wood to used for maybe for a home for some sparks. Now I just gotta like make some sparks happen, see what it takes. And hello to any new subscribers to this channel, Leafy Concern. Usually what I talk about on here is books that I'm reading and books that I've recently read. And if you look back through, you'll see many a video, dozens and dozens of videos where I'm talking about this. I think in the future, since it seems people are interested in the ways I use stationery, it seems that I myself am interested in the ways I use stationery. Maybe I'll alternate. One video with stationery, one video about a book I read. Happy reading, everybody.